Well, it's that time of year again, isn't it? The richest game in club football comes to town as Wembley Stadium hosts the EFL Championship playoff final for the 23-24 season this Sunday. A 3 p.m. kickoff between third and fourth place as Leeds United face Southampton is the final as neutrals we probably wanted, and it's the final that hopefully will live up to the billing. It's a stark contrast from what we saw in last year's final, where my club Luton Town faced Coventry, both looking to complete fairy tale stories, but more in hope and optimism rather than expectation. For these two, in their first year back in the Championship after relegation, it is very much a demand that promotion is secured. Two of the three biggest budgets in the Championship this season, two of the three most fancied squads on paper, and two of the four sides that for most of the season ran away with the division. Who's going to come out on top? Well, today we're going to preview the game, predict the outcome and the score for the Championship playoff final this Sunday. As always, I'll encourage you to play along in your numbers. Get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think the score will be. What will the permutations be? Is anyone calling extra time or penalties? Get your predictions in the comments below. Thank you for playing along all season. It's been brilliant fun, and hopefully you get it right. Firstly, if you're a Leeds or Southampton fan, just enjoy the day. It's brilliant fun. Having been there last year, I know the agony of penalties felt like it went on for hours, but it's always a great day out. So have a good time. But before we go and get ahead to the Championship playoff final, you know how the drill goes here. We've got to have a quick recap of what we all predicted in a semi-final second legs. So while I tot up how many points we all got and see whether you guys beat or matched my score in the comments, let me tell you a few quick words from our partners today, who might be able to help us with a pre-match meal. For this video, we're proudly partnered with HelloFresh. HelloFresh are on a mission to make your meal times easier with pre-portioned ingredients, quick and easy recipe cards, and plenty of treats we can get on board with too. Get 60% off your first box plus free dessert for life by clicking a link at the top of the description. Sounds good, doesn't it? I've tried it before, I'm a big fan of the brand, and they've helped with my weight loss this year too. There's healthy options available, so why not grab your discount and give HelloFresh a go from the description below. Well, after three poor showings in succession, after what had been a pretty good season, I did manage to correctly predict the outcome of both matches in the second leg of the playoff semi-finals. I've predicted the correct final. I did in the end edge Leeds and Southampton to win. I think all of us went for slightly tighter games than we ended up seeing. No one saw a 4-0 coming. Leeds magnificent against Norwich, who we mentioned were poor away from home. And although I only had Southampton to edge through on penalties, in the end they got through by 3-1. But we got the final that we predicted in the last episode. But how many of you guys in the comments did the same? Well, predictably, nobody got any perfect scores because both games were higher scoring and a bit wider margin than we expect them to be. But two of you did manage to predict the correct final as well and pick up 2 points just as I did. Those two of our regulars, Teo and Chris, well done to both of you for predicting a Leeds United versus Southampton final. And now you've done that, and now the three of us correctly got it. Let's go and talk about the game and see if we can split these two sides, because it is Leeds United versus Southampton at Wembley, and this playoff final promises to deliver entertainment. Now, there are so many stats that can either make or break or change our mind here. There are a lot of contradictions, there are a lot of concerns, and even from what we saw in the other two playoff finals last weekend, there are a number of things that could sway my decision. Because these two sides, let's be honest, over the season, as with Ipswich and Leicester, were separated by very little until the final few games. Both Leeds and Southampton slipped up at crucial times. Southampton losing 3 in a row prior to the final day. Leeds United just hitting an awful run of form with 6 or 7 games to go. But did they quash that in a second leg against Norwich? Because after doing a professional job on the road, which both sides did with 0-0 draws in the first leg, Leeds were absolutely rampant out of the traps at Ellen Road. A great atmosphere on Thursday night, and we talked about it in the preview for those second legs, didn't we? The only risk to Leeds were if they didn't score early, if the crowd started to get edgy or concerned at 25-30 minutes. But that was never a risk. They had 2 or 3 chances before they scored in the 7th minute, and what a great bit of coaching and tactical work, because Gruev, with that free kick, just passed into the corner. They'd seen the pattern of what Norwich did when defending those set pieces. Gunn trying to come and get the early cross to protect a fragile defence and leaving 3/4 of his goal free. Gruev just curled it in, and it was simple as you like, wasn't it? What a time for your first goal at Leeds United. It was followed up pretty quickly by Pirro making it 2 at 20 minutes. And deservedly, Rutter got the third before the break. For me watching, I think Rutter was the star of the show. Some lovely flicks, some lovely touches. Looked far more comfortable in that number 10 role rather than as the focal point, which he was in the first leg. I just thought he was fantastic that first half. You could see he was up for it. It almost boiled over a bit in the second period. But he was fantastic. He set the tone. He was high pressing, high intensity. And he was magic on the ball. Second half, Somerville, the man of the season, got his goal as well. Nonto played really well. And when that front 3 or 4 were in form, you know you've got one hell of a fighting chance because they are absolutely phenomenal players at championship level. And one thing we know about Pirro from his time at Swansea, he steps up in the big games and scores goals. And with Patrick Bamford a doubt, we know that's always going to be important. So I would expect the front 4 to be exactly the same in the final, albeit they might want to adapt tactically for Southampton, who have done the double over them this year. And that is another concern for me here because while Leeds have got that flying front 4, they've got people like Dan James coming back to fitness, Southampton have found a way to nullify them to an extent. Of course, they won there on the final day by 2-1, a good result at Ellen Road for them. But they also beat them 3-1 earlier in the season when Leeds were flying and looked like they were going to get back towards the top of the table. So that does leave me with an element of doubt in my mind. But then I go back to the League 2 playoff final last week, where Crewe had done the double over Crawley, and I predicted a Crawley win based on their form in the second leg of the semi-final. And it ended up that momentum was enough and it was a dominant display. So that's what's leaving me a little bit concerned about this one. If we go and focus on Southampton first though, again, that professional job, 0-0 away at West Brom, had to cling on early in that first leg. And we talked about Alex McCarthy. Yes, third choice keeper, probably not wanted in an ideal world by Russell Martin on the books. But he dealt with that long throw, he dealt with a set piece as well. Had one hairy moment in the second leg, but generally, he was so important in that tie and almost ended up being the perfect keeper to be fit for it. And while this game took a slightly different pattern, it did have that element of frustration we predicted in the first half. It was a very quiet game, Southampton keeping the ball, but not really able to break down a very stubborn West Brom defence. But all they did was waited for that one mistake, and it's where Southampton have to get credit. They didn't try and force the issue. They didn't try and push too soon. They didn't commit silly people forwards. They waited for a mistake, which came from that Grady Diangana pass. Not a position where you would have expected them to score from, but still, they took advantage of a rare moment of West Brom defensive weakness where they had a chance to outnumber them, and Will Smallbone was a really good finish. Once they broke the deadlock, of course, West Brom tried to fire back quickly, but when you've got Adam Armstrong in the team, you're always going to have a goal threat, and that's what excites me most about this final. You've got Adam Armstrong, despite the absence of probably both first-choice strikers in Bamford and Adams in the semi-final, where the teams were able to find a way to score goals. So many attacking threats, so many clever players that like to run in behind, that like to cut inside and take people on. And Adam Armstrong, aside from scoring his penalty with a composed finish, got another one on there as well. It was a really good display. And the only negative really was that they conceded that header late in stoppage time, because conceding from a set piece has been a concern at times this year for Southampton. But more worryingly, just not to keep that clean sheet going into the final would have been a nice touch. But Southampton, after they got that goal, really played well. Defensively were solid, really confident going forward. And they're just starting to get players back at the right time as well. It looks like Che Adams may be off this summer to Wolves anyway, so probably good that Southampton are getting used to playing without him. And interesting to see again that the defence was adapted by Russell Martin to try and find a place for Jack Stephens, and that seems to be working out. He's a key part of his defensive setup. But going into this final, you've got to look for the minuscule differences between the teams. Now, if we go over the whole season in the table, Southampton slightly outscored Leeds, but only 6 in it overall. Whereas on the flip side, Southampton have conceded 20 more goals, 63 to Leeds' 43. But Leeds' brilliant defensive record was at home. Away from home, they still conceded a fair number of goals. Southampton, yes, they have conceded more over the season, but they had that horrible period near the start in October where they were conceding 4 or 5 a game. And in the second half of the year, actually, their record stacks up with most of the top 6. So it doesn't really give us too many clues if we base it on recent months. It's sometimes too obvious to just look at one statistic there. And I do think this is going to be a thriller. I know we've had two finals in the EFL so far where one team have turned up and one haven't. And there is a big risk of that in this game because, of course, we've seen in recent weeks when the big games have come around in that title race and that promotion race, both of these sides have faltered at key times. Leeds United, I go back to that QPR game, probably the worst I've seen a title contender play for a very long time in the Championship. But then Southampton just crumbled away at Leicester in that 5-0 defeat, and it was what happened when they went a couple of goals down against a big team that was a concern. So both of these teams have had heavy pastings in recent weeks and know that if it goes wrong, it can go badly wrong. We're going to see the clash of styles, of course, because Russell Martin loves to keep possession, loves to play at a low intensity with the ball, keep it moving, get Flynn Downs on the ball, who is going to be the key player in the final for them again, and try and get the ball into those areas, those pockets of space in the inside forward roles for the likes of Adam Armstrong, the likes of Joe Aribo, where they can create space and create havoc, as we saw with Smallbone in that area for the first goal against West Brom as well. Whereas for Leeds, it's going to be about sharp counter-attacking. They probably will sit off a little more defensively and let Southampton have the ball. I don't think they can afford to go high pressing and gun-ho against them. We saw the consequences of that in both league fixtures. But Daniel Farke is a master of Championship promotion, and Leeds' front four is full of big game players, big goal scorers, and high quality service in behind. There is so much talent in that Leeds team that you just feel, how can they keep them quiet for 90 minutes? Neither side has kept a clean sheet against each other this year. Both sides, when the pressure was on in the second leg of the semi-finals, turned up with a brilliant performance. I just think both teams are going to turn up. And I know that hasn't happened in either of the other finals, but I really think we're going to get a barnstormer here. Maybe it's more hope than expectation from a neutral point of view. We've seen that both could go the way of the first leg with a 0-0 draw, not wanting to lose, wanting to stay in the tie. And I would favour maybe Leeds taking that approach more than Southampton. I mean, I'm so unsure on this. It's two brilliant sides that were separated by 3 points over the course of a 46-game season. Both took the same approach to great effect in the first leg of the playoff semi-finals and were both magnificent at home in the second leg. But I have to stick with my pre-season prediction, and it's literally the only thing I can do to separate these sides. There is every chance this could be a draw and go all the way. Lots of Championship finals do. We saw it last year with my club Luton Town. We saw a cagey one the year before with Huddersfield and Nottingham Forest, which again probably would have been a draw if it weren't for a big referee and mistake. This time, no, I'm going for a thriller. I'm going for an entertaining game because no matter how long it takes, it might be a quiet half again like we maybe saw in that Saints-West Brom game. But once the first goal goes in, this game has the potential to be carnage. I'm hoping it's going to deliver a classic. We haven't seen one for many, many years. I'm going back to like sort of Swansea Reading days for proper goal scoring finals. I'm going to go for Leeds United to edge it just because I predicted them for promotion pre-season. But either way, it's two brilliant sides. Whichever one doesn't go up is going to be one of the favourites next year, hopefully alongside my club Luton Town. But I'm just about going to go for Leeds United, purely on my pre-season prediction and the fact that I think they've got more individuals that can change a game and produce a moment. Southampton, if they're cohesive, if they play their style perfectly, it could be a very good day for them. If they make an early defensive error, if they get caught out, go one down, again, it could get away from them. But I'm going for Leeds United in a cracking Championship playoff final to win promotion back to the Premier League by 3-2 in 90 minutes, plus however many stoppage time we get. So Leeds United, my pick for promotion just, but I'm going to tell you now, I'm not that confident about it at all. Do you agree or disagree? Get your prediction in the comments below. What will the score be and will it be 90 minutes, extra time or penalties? Let's hope there's not too many long VAR checks that we have to sit through. And hopefully if one prediction of mine is right, it's that we get a barnstorming final with loads of attacking play, entertainment and goals. Either way, I hope it's a great final from a neutral point of view. I hope you enjoy it. If you're going, enjoy the day. Thank you very much for watching and following our Championship predictions all season. Of course, we will be back for the new year as well, 24-25. Loads of manager specials to get through in the meantime. Some special stuff coming over the summer. So if you enjoyed this one, please do put a thumbs up on it. Subscribe and turn that notification bell on to stay up to date with everything as it's released across the podcast. As we mentioned a bit earlier, you can help yourself with the pre-match meal from HelloFresh. Get involved down in the description below. The link there for 60% off your first box and free dessert for life. That's never a bad sentence, is it? But for now, a massive thank you for your support this season, for joining me for yet another championship prediction. It's the final one of the season, but will we get it right? Enjoy the match, enjoy the summer break, and I'll see you back here again for the new championship prediction season when we start again in August.